Hello, it's Aimee here, and in this video I will be showing you my setup for June. This year's June theme is embroidery and sewing. I have dabbled in sewing before, but I've never done embroidery. It shows up one time on my shorts or reels and bam, another obsession emerges. I just love how it adds so much character to pieces of clothing. It's crazy when people do it like a painting and make masterpieces with thread. Thus, a theme to show my appreciation for another form of art. I also saw someone make a realistic picture of a patch, so I wanted to try that out myself through this spread. I debated on whether or not I wanted to line my sketches like I usually do, because it wouldn't have a realistic look if I did. I decided on sticking with my comfort zone though this time and lined it with my .005 brown micron pen. I've been really obsessed with this fine liner because it makes the lines subtle rather than bold like the black pen. I think it will help make it more realistic too once I start coloring everything in. Because I'm going for a more realistic look, this theme will be a bit more doodle heavy than usual and take a lot more time. I didn't want to have this video be super long, so I will be splitting it up into parts. The second part of the video will be my weeklies, and unlike the last spreads from this year, I will be showing you different layouts for each week, so please look forward to that. Now on to the coloring of this cover page. I am using my usual dual tip Tombow brush pens to lightly color it in. I plan on using colored pencils to shade on top of it, so I'm keeping the colors light and a bit loose. I didn't want the colors to be the same for each block, so I used a different color for each of them. I then colored in the doodles within each section and again kept them light. I didn't know how I felt about how the coloring was going as it went on, but I am working on trying my best to trust the process. To add a bit more details, I added in some stitching for each patch. I really loved how the right stitching was looking, but the smaller patches were a bit meh to me. It's probably because they were too small to add details to it, unlike the larger stitching. And maybe because they were also too red for me. But I trucked on and colored in the lettering of June and the doodles around it. After coloring it all in, that's when I started using the colored pencils. I kept the tip of them sharp so that I can shade in the lettering and doodles, giving it a thread-like look to them. That's when I started really feeling a bit of regret with the colors I chose, at least with the lettering. I always jump straight in with coloring my pieces instead of testing them out so that I don't feel upset about it. I think that opened my eyes a little bit to actually start doing that. But we're in too deep now, so there's no going back. Just gotta keep going. After finishing the cover page, I moved on to the quote page. I used the same fine liner from the cover page and outlined the doodles. With the coloring, I thought it was going well. The pin cushion was easier and I loved how that turned out. But for some reason with the scissors, I had less confidence with it. I hope you can see the constant up and down pattern because that is literally how I feel with all of my art pieces. One minute I love it and then the next minute I hate it. Please tell me I'm not the only one. The struggle is real. I'm so glad I used color pencils for shading because it helps the colors blend in well from the markers. The markers tend to make harsh lines, and to compensate for my lack of skills with blending them, colored pencils were the way to go. I felt the roller coaster of the love-hate mentality when it came to shading the scissors because it seemed like no matter what I did, it didn't have as much depth to it. I didn't want to go overboard with it either, but again, my confidence dropped a lot. This made for a perfect quote for me. The constant up and down this month and lack of motivation here and there put me in a bit of a slump. I just wanted to express how I felt this month through this quote and wanted to keep the theme going by censoring it a little bit too. Everything didn't come together until I added some highlights to everything. With every highlight, I was happy with how everything was turning out. Trusting the process is a real thing that I have trouble getting into my head. You really do need to though, because every stage of a piece has an ugly stage. With the cover page and quote page finally finished, I move on to the calendar. Same process, I line my sketches with the fine liner first. One of these days, I will try a different method, but I have a hard time feeling comfortable with coloring when I can't fully see my lines. You can't just keep your marks in when you use marker though, because then you can't erase them away. Lining everything is the best option to be able to erase the sketches for me. As I mentioned, this is a very doodle-heavy theme, so even my calendar has a bit more detail and effort than I usually put into it. I still wanted to give some depth to all of the doodles on this page. I kept all of the colors very light when I filled it in. This will be the last spread that I use the color pencils in at this point, as I was really investing a lot of time in this theme. I used a paint pen to write in the days of the week because the marker would probably not show up as well as I would like. I realized that my calendar layout was wrong, so to make up for my mistake, I used washi tape to X out all of the space that shouldn't be there. Then I finished the spread off with some highlights and moved on to the habit and budget tracker. I really didn't want to pull my color pencils out again, so this spread will be strictly markers after I line everything out. I didn't mind the overlapping of the markers when I colored in the balls of yarn because I felt like it added some texture to it. I used different colors to keep them from being plain and used a darker version of the colors for the yarn pattern. I later kind of regretted it because it was a bit hard to see the calendar to actually track the habits. I should have added some paper on top of it, but it would have lost the yarn look to it. Probably will use lighter colors for the lining next time. I was worried about how the header yarn would look when I was only using markers to coloring it in, but it was probably one of my favorite parts of the spread. It looked more realistic than I expected, and I love how it turned out. With the budget tracker, I tried to match the colors a little bit to the habit tracker. I alternated the colors for each line and then finished the shading for the banner. I used faux calligraphy to write out habit and budget, and then finished this spread off with some highlights. Finally, my completed June spreads for this year. Even with the ups and downs I felt throughout the theme, I am really happy with how it turned out. There are some things that didn't come out as I envisioned, but that is what practice is for. I hope this is a theme that you can draw inspiration from, and if you do, please tag me on Instagram so I can admire it and show some love. My weekly spreads will be posted shortly, so please look forward to that. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. Bye for now.